Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host. And here we are on this podcast to fight with CPS and get our children back. I hope everybody had a good sleep wherever you're listening from. This podcast has been brought to you by Mr. Davis and Associates. I want to give many kudos or thanks to Mr. Davis. If you need help, please call him at 888-888-6582. We'll talk more about Mr. Davis shortly. Now, there's several ways you can interact with this podcast. One way is to text a message. All you need to do is put your city and state when you text in. Your name will appear because in order to do comments, you have to have a name. So you just type something about CPS. We're here to discuss about child protection services. We're supposed to talk about anything relating to child protection services. And if you're from a country, it's okay to text in because we've had other countries here. I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Guyana, Mexico, and Mozambique. So it's been interesting comments I've gotten over the months, and I'm happy to have a way you can interact with the show. If you want something or you're not liking something or you want to talk about, this is an open forum to talk about child protection services. Now, if you want to talk live on the show, you can call in at 626-698-0990. And I'll put you on the speakerphone and everybody will be able to hear you. They won't see you. But if you'd like to talk about your case or ask questions, I'll be more than happy to have you. Now, if you don't want to talk right now, but you want to talk a later date, you can email my producer. She does a lot for this show. I want to thank you, Grace. You just send her an email to grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And put in your email to her that you want to be on one of my 14 shows, either morning or in the evening. Now, typically I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for an hour, and then again at 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time for an hour. Now, this weekend there's a couple changes. I know on Saturday morning, instead of starting at 10 o'clock, we're going to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. That'd be good on the East Coast people because that'll be 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'll be starting then at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. And also on Sunday, I normally start at 10:30 because there's another podcast, but I'm going to come on at 12:30 on Sunday. 12:30 on Sunday. So those are the two changes. Every other day remains the same. But I'll let you know if there's any future changes. Now, typically I usually have a guest on the show, but this morning I guess I don't have a guest. My guests have been trying to come on, but they've had some technical difficulties. Now, I love your emojis, the thumbs up, the smiling faces, the love, and all this. Feel free to do so. Feel free to do so. Now, I know that some of you are really questioning about CPS. Something is not right. It seems like, typical speaking, most of the people I talk to, in fact, all the people I talk to, and been over 500 some people over the last couple of months, they have something common like myself does. I'm a CPS person too. I was caught up onto it, very badly caught up into it, and it hurt me big time. It took away our daughter, who was really hurt by the social worker and threatened. But I guess like anything, you try to survive. It's hard when you lose a loved one. I mean, she was only 12 at the time. She's 21 now and wants nothing to do with our family. In fact, sad to say is that our family has changed somewhat. My mom and dad are dead. I have an aunt that's still hanging in there and some cousins. My wife's side, her dad just recently died, which was a sad thing too. But then her family turned against her on our CPS case. They started making allegations in 2010 when soon after I lost my job through no fault of my own. And I was struggling. Instead of them trying to help or anything else, they said things were not true. I mean, allegations are terrible when they're made by lay people. I think all allegations should be made in writing and your name should be signed to it. And it should not be, confidential, because if that person lied and made allegations, they should be sued there. You should be sued. Looks like we got Megan Cooper. Welcome, Megan Cooper. I see your hand waving. Megan, what city and state are you from? Glad to have you. Is there a question, Megan, or do you want to call in and be live on the show with me at 626-698-0990? Now, CPS is a hard agency to deal with. They're required by law to protect our children through neglect and abuse. And also they're supposed to do family reunification, get the family back together again after they split them up. Not all parents are bad, and if they have hiccups, they should be able to put together. But what CPS has done to me has been horrible. They've destroyed our family. They brainwashed our daughter to thinking that the best way out is to divorce her parents, steal their birth certificate, change her name, and be adopted. That's what she did at age 12. 12 years old don't know that. They do not know that thing. They're duped. And the social workers are bad. I will say one thing about these social workers. They're not trained. They don't have a college degree. They don't have any schooling in social work. They don't even have a mentor that they followed so they can know what to do. Right away, they're put into the job with very little experience or training. They don't have a license to renew or a certificate to renew. And they have pretty much free will. Their reward, of course, is the bonuses that the agency gives them. And the longer the child's kept in the custody, the more bonus they get. The federal government sends the state and federal send the state county thing about $20,000 per child per month. And you have 3 children, that's $60,000. You multiply times 100 children, because there's 3.8 million people being investigated. 1 in every 20 children is being investigated because there's something wrong. Also, there seems to be a rush to say children in imminent danger. My children were never in imminent danger, but they took them from me. I did not know the laws. There's a lot of laws of the land that you need to know. And that leads me to my first rule. Rule number 1. You need an attorney. This is like open heart massage, open heart surgery. You're doing open heart surgery, meaning the Child Protection Services is a maze. It's very complex. They're not transparent, and they treat grandparents really bad and parents too. I would like to hear from somebody that can confirm that. Megan, I don't know what city and state you're from, but it'd be nice if you put that in there. You imagine you heard the story of Alice in Wonderland falling in the rabbit hole. Well, she fell in and she entered a bunch of doors that went nowhere. That's what Child Protection Services is, doors going nowhere. It's a very irresponsible organization, and they're supposed to be entrusted to watch and protect our children, but they don't do it. There has been a lot of okay, sorry for the interruption. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to deal with this agency. Another way to do the analogy is that it's like a spider weaving a web, and the web is around you. They'll pull you in, you suck you in. They do child trafficking. They will take your child and put your child right in foster care, either in a group home, a shelter, or a single family home. But they're not to be trusted. I've seen nothing but just evilness with them. I tried to fight them for a long time without an attorney. And they're so corrupt. They're so corrupt. The guy who's in charge of my social services, the Child Protection Services, his office building's like the Taj Mahal. They're in Southern California, and the building is so fancy. It's like the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. And everything I said, it went in one ear, went out the other ear. He was helpless. So were his supervisors. I had so many things that I always tell them my constitutional rights were violated, my civil rights were violated, but they wouldn't hear any of that. And it wasn't until I got attorney Mr. Davis that things started to turn around. It took me a while. So I've told you what the agency's like. I've told you that you need to have a professional lawyer, a family lawyer. Just like the open heart surgery, you're going to have a surgeon that's trained in open heart surgery do your performance there. Same goes for Child Protection Services. Now, the Child Protection Services will use deceitful tactics. They'll use the police in a bad way. They will tell the police to help them do some of their actions which are illegal. It's wrong for them to take your child from your home and wrong to take them from you when you're at the hospital. You need to make sure you know your rights. And that's why I'm telling you need to get an attorney. Now, I told everybody here to find attorneys, you need to look them up. You need at least 10 of them. They're family law attorneys. The key is family law. So you make a list of 10 people, they're family law attorneys. And from that list, you narrow it down to 5 that you're going to speak with. And you want to narrow it down to those 5 that maybe have experience with CPS or have fought CPS or gotten children back. Now, Mr. Davis has all that, and he can be a person for your list of 5, because from your list of 10, you're going to reduce it down to 5 to call and bring them aboard. Mr. Davis has been around a long time. He has fought CPS. He has gotten children back from CPS. He's also filed a federal lawsuit against the agency and won. He's done that both federal and state courts. He knows how to do things that will help you get your children back. And he's very, very professional. He's in Southern California, but he'll work Northern California and any of the other 50 states. Now, you're going to talk to him because I think it's important. He has a consultation for 30 minutes. It's really affordable. It's $49.99 is the consultation. Also, you can find it you can find that he will take his time and talk about the strategies and how to get your kids back. So you want to call 888-888-6582, ask to speak to Mr. Davis, and that ask for the consultation, and then he go over your case and how to fight him and how to get your kids back or keep your kids. But I want to emphasize that you need an attorney. You won't be able to do the open heart surgery yourself, just like you won't be able to fight CPS yourself. It's really, really important that you get this attorney because it gives you a big relief. I did, but I waited too late. I got him, a year and a half after my trial. And I should have got him a long time ago. Okay, so you call in to 888-888-6582, ask to speak to Mr. Davis, say that Bob Pace sent you, and that you also, when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. It's really important there. So that's my rule number 1. And that's the attorney I got you. You got one of your top 5 attorneys to talk to. And, hire him because you not regret it. It's worth it really having him there fighting for you, and he knows the laws. Now, there's 2 other rules I want to get out of the way. Rule number 2 is you need to take notes. You need to have a notebook. And that is the purpose that you got to take notes of all the incidents that happen. Anything that happened related to CPS, you keep in one notebook, you write it down. And at the top line of the notebook, you want to put down what this is all about. Your line 1 will be your date and time, and you list the people that are involved with that, and then you skip a line and put down the solid reason what the incident was about. It took your children. They came to your home. You write that down. Then you want to write the conclusion. You may not have a conclusion right away. You may take months to figure out. But you have it open there, so it reminds you to make a notation there. So with this notebook, you write your 3rd line The outcome. You have the incident and then you have the outcome. You may not have the outcome right away, so you have to add it later. Then you skip a couple lines, write the next incident, and then so forth and so forth. Your notebook get filled up. I didn't do this. I should have. Because you'll forget things. You won't remember everything. And it's very important that you remember things that can help you get your children back. Now, the last rule to deal with is how to deal with social workers and the police. It's very important that you talk very little to the police or the social workers. They don't need to hear your whole story, and they'll use that against you. So, when you have a social worker come knocking on your door, you don't open it. You look through the peephole. You don't recognize the person. Don't open it. And if you happen to come outside and they're standing out there, then just be courteous to them, but tell them you need to talk to your attorney. Tell them they cannot take your child. They got to have a warrant to take your child, a warrant to come into your home. Another thing, too, besides saying no to social workers and policemen, you don't let them in your home. Your home is your castle. They have to have a warrant, and the warrant's got to be very specific. It's got to give the date and time, location, who they want to talk to, and then what their allegations are. So I've told you about the 3 rules, told you how to get an attorney, and now I'd like to open up about other issues that relate to your case. Again, I want to remind everybody to call in at 626-698-0990. It'd be real important and nice to hear from you all. Now, I have some topics that I'm going to try to talk about to see if they can help you or you're interested in there. Now, I've been studying the evolution of social work and what it's all about and how it got started and everything. Now, what was happening and why we have social work and how it all came evolved is the cities now are starting to become crowded. And to compensate for ineffective government response to growing social problems, benevolent societies and self-help organizations took to addressing the consequences of urbanization, poverty, and immigration. It was founded in 1843 and 1853, respectively. The 1853 was the Children's Aid Society. And then the Condition of the Poor in 1843 was the Association for the Improvement of the Coalition of the Poor. Those particular agencies, where tensions were met, and they got funding to try to help out the poor there. They focused on addressing social issues as child welfare and tenement housing. Now, during the Civil War of 1861 to 1865, major social welfare initiatives such as the U.S. Sanitary Commission and the American Red Cross emerged. Charity boards were created as a means to improve the management of social institutions. The first federal social welfare program, referred to as the Freedom Bureau, began in 1865 as a means to help newly emancipated slaves. The program was short lived, however, as lack of funds and political pressures prevented it from carrying out its mission. And then Congress shut down this bureau in 1872. In 1877, the American Charity Society attempted to respond to social consequences of industrialization with a scientific charity using concepts from the business field. Reformers attempted to regulate public relief distribution to minority immigrant communities who were rapidly growing part of the labor force. However, most of the scientific charity relief efforts were not effective, in part because many recipients prefer mutual and established by their own communities. Settlement houses were created to respond to some of the social changes caused by industrial expansion. Settlement houses are neighborhood-based organizations that provide service specifically to the needs of their neighborhood, much like a community center does. This new type of social service agency focused on correcting the environment cause of poverty. Their activities included conducting research, establishing a juvenile court system, creating so the social system has been struggling. The problem is now our government is given lots of money now, and the money is not being accounted for. And also the government runs out of money, and they wonder why. Well, the government is very foolish in how they spend their money. They get a bill for a toilet seat in the military, and they pay $500 for that toilet seat. You and I both know that $100 is all they should be able to pay for a toilet seat. But they're mischarging. Also, the government gives religious groups, and I call them cult groups, like there's one group in Utah, is given millions of dollars to refine and develop an alternative method of fuel. And they have not made it one drop, and they've been around for a long time. That's where your money goes to. Their excessive money goes to the social workers. And it's really sad how the money is being needlessly wasted. All they do is it makes the social worker rich, abundant with money. There's something that is happening now that there's a report that lots of children are being sent from Georgia to Texas because they have to go to get a treatment done for the mental health issues. And that was disturbing to a lot of parents that called in about it. Now, every state has a child welfare system. You need to go find it, Google it, get familiar with it. Every state has a child protection services. They may call it different names, but you really should go there and look on it and so forth. Now, Child Protection Services is a state agency that investigates reports of child abuse and neglect. So when someone calls in, either layperson or professional, and they call in, it alerts them, and they have to, within 24 hours, respond to that allegation. They have to respond to it. Child safety is the first concern of Child Protective Services. They will work with both parents to safely care for their child. Now, CPS can also go to court to remove a child from the parent's care if necessary to protect the child. So they can do it temporary and they can get back because you're going to have to go through programs and whatnot there. Now, there's a lot that goes on with children. There's domestic violence, where two parents will start hitting each other in front of the children. That's a no-no. Also, verbal abuse is a no-no. You should not be arguing with your spouse, and that can harm the children. It's emotional abuse is what that is. So there's the physical abuse and emotional abuse. You want to do what's called a timeout. You give your children timeouts, but you should also think about taking one yourself as a parent. This could also happen for you at work too. Timeouts are good things. It makes you think, and you need to get back to why you were timing out. Now, every state has legislative information, and there's a thing called the Welfare and Institution Code. You need to look at 300 and 325. Those are really important areas, and they'll help you with you getting your children back. We have about 25 minutes left of the show. And again, I still have to have someone talk on the show. So please call in at 626-698-0990. And I will put you on speakerphone and have you on the show live. Now, Welfare Institution Code, WCI 325, is a proceeding in the juvenile court to declare a child to be a dependent child of the court and is commenced by the filing with the court by the social worker of a petition. And so that's what happens. And you need to, again, read that section there. What I'm looking for is the flow chart. I think it's really nice to have it there. Now, this flow chart we discussed about will help you see all that happens to your case. It starts off with a response to the allegations that come in, and that's done by the Child Protection Services. They have 24 hours to start their investigation, and they're to determine if a child should be placed in protective custody or a child's not placed in custody. Then the next step is dependency petition filed. So if the child's in protective custody, a petition's filed. And again, you want to look at that code 325. And right after the petition file, you're going to have a detention initial hearing. And that's Health and Welfare Code 319. And if a child's in custody, it occurs within 24 hours of the filing of the petition. So, it's going to move. They say that it's supposed to take only 48 days, but some people have been there for years. And it's very, very, very disgusting thing there. After the initial hearing, there is a jurisdictional hearing. And the jurisdictional hearing is where they talk further about the case. The deposition hearing is when the case ends. Are they going to put your kids in foster care? Or are they going to return them back to the parents? Now, at the very beginning, when your children are taken, they're put into a foster care, and that may not be healthy or good for them. But that first week they're taken from you, you meet with those social workers, and they're going to sit there and make a list of family members your children could stay with. You need to make them a list. So the flow chart is very easy to find, and it really helps you because it shows you what to do, where the steps, and things like that. At the safety plan, you're going to prepare a list of family members your child could stay with if they take your children from you. Now, for all you that are Native American Indians, there's an act that was passed in the 70s called the Indian Child Welfare Act, ICWA. And what that was about was to protect the Indian children because too many were being adopted and not sent back to their parents. So the Indian tribes wanted to take better care for them. So what happens is CPS worker identify that you're American Indian, then they got to verify you that you're registered or could be registered to that tribe. So that's the flow chart. Seems like it's all quiet on the home front. So hoping we have some comments come in or somebody would like to speak. I guess it's kind of dead this morning. Maybe the weather's bad in your area. I know people are all having extreme different kinds of weather problems and everything. There's some strange things that go on out there. I know there was a Korean man who was 3 years old and he was adopted and brought to the States. But then the foster care families kept abusing him. He went to foster care. Then he got some trouble with himself. He grew up, survived that. He had a wife and children. They have a business and stuff. And then he was exported to Korea because when he was adopted, they forgot to make him a U.S. citizen. So he had to go to Korea to be adopted. So this Korean person went to Korea. He was born there, but he was taken at age 3, so he didn't remember the language. He looks Korean, but he couldn't assimilate in there. Now he lives in Mexico, and he's trying to get back to his family. He's trying to get a pardon to come back in there. It wasn't his fault he wasn't made a citizen. And it's typically speaking, there's always a bad hiccup and stuff like that. But it's a horrible thing that they do with children, foster care, older foster care, young ones, whatever they do there. There's 3 types of child custody orders. There are temporary orders, emergency orders, and final orders, and staying in compliance with court orders. Now, there's a real important motion that I want you guys to be aware of. California, it's called the 388 motion. Other states, it may not be, but what it is the modification of juvenile court judgments and orders. It's how you can get your plan changed, how you can come back and talk to the judge in court. What you do is you file this petition. And when you file the petition, the judge must have a hearing within 30 days. They are filed when there's a change of circumstances or new evidence. They're used to petition a court for a hearing to change, modify, or set aside any previous court order. So this petition should be filed by your attorney. It's got to be served on all parties, and you'll get a chance to talk to the judge. Say, for instance, let's say you finished your program or you finished all your parenting classes. Those are the new evidence. That's the new change in there. So you need to be aware of the 388 petition. It's a motion to make changes to the current plan with your children. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about what foster care is, because it seems like a lot of children head there. Foster care is a system in which a minor has been placed into a ward, group home, residential child care opportunity treatment center, or a private home of state-certified caregivers referred to as foster parents, or with a member approved by the state. The placement of foster child is normally arranged to the government or social service agency. The institution, group home, or foster parent is compensated for expenses unless they're with a family member. So even they get expenses. So the foster care system can be a group home or an institution for the treatment, or a foster parent, single family home. Now, there's been some talk that scholars and activists are concerned about the efficiency of foster care service provided by non-GOs. Especially this pertains to the poor retention rate of social workers. Poor retention rates are attributed to being overworked in an emotional draining field that offers minimum monetary compensation. When I read that, it doesn't make sense. Minimum monetary, because we know for a fact they're getting money. The efficiency of a caseworker retention also seems to affect the overability to care for clients. Low staffing leads to data limitations that infringe on caseworkers' ability to adequately serve the clients and their family. So foster care, my children were in it. They got hurt. It was sad. My daughter was adopted by a foster care home. And that was sad too. That was really, really sad. Now, what is also happening over in Georgia is the kids were sent out of state for behavioral health needs. And one of the children being sent out of state turned 18 while they're in Texas, and the mom is trying to get their back. And because he's 18, it's a long hill battle, because he's now considered an adult, and he's a special needs adult. So they're interviewing with that one there too. Now, Danielle, who's been on our show, has been engaging with virtual visits with her son Alex. Now, Alex is 18. The state of Georgia considers him a dependent child with high needs. He's a special needs child. Alex has severe autism, but being away from the family complicates his behavior even more, according to his mom. Back in 2011, when Danielle served prison time for felony forgery, she gave guardianship of her special needs son to his maternal grandmother. But when she died in 2022, the Georgia's Department of Human Services Division of Family Children Service, DFCS, ultimately decided Alex needed to be placed in a residential facility for behavioral health. The closest one available was hundreds away near Houston, Texas. So that's why they're being shipped from there. So what's happened is that there are fewer residential facility options for children who are already state residents. And as a result, that means local children may have to leave Georgia for help. So there's staffing shortages. There's always complex problems. Now, it was brought to my attention, someone asked me what nuke pro trunc is. Nuke pro trunc is a Latin expression which means now for then. In general, a court ruling, nuke pro trunc, applies retroactively to correct an earlier ruling. In California, the court has discretion in family law matters to order an entry of judgment nuke pro trunc, which makes the order relate back in time to when it should have been entered to avoid injustice. When a judgment of dissolution was not entered through mistakes, negligence, or adversity, or was not entered as soon as possibly could have been, the court may order that be deemed entered as the date that originally could have been entered. So I only talk about that because someone brought that up. I didn't want anybody to. Okay. Now, some of you may have heard about ombudsman persons or CASA. They're individuals that are trained to be neutral and to help out with your case, but I don't think they work out. I think all they do is to feed information to the Child Protection Service, so they in turn take the child. There's one area that has been taking a lot of notice is called medical kidnapping. And you got to pay really attention to this because this is now happening a lot lately. You know, as parents, you try to do the right thing for your kids. That includes seeking medical attention when you suspect something is wrong. Nothing can stop your heart faster than waking to a sick child in the middle of the night and racing to the emergency room. So you try to do the right thing. That includes seeking medical attention when you suspect something is wrong. Nothing can stop your heart faster than waking to a sick child in the middle of the night and racing to the emergency room. Well, almost nothing. Well, imagine that once through the hospital doors, your child may not be free to leave with you. You probably say, why? Well, medical kidnapping is very real and verified, terrified term that describes the scenario where the state steps in to take your child custody when the doctors and parents disagree over the medical care your child should receive. The state then places your son or daughter into foster care where you not even be granted visitation rights. This is how sad they do this. So when the doctors and parents disagree over the medical care your child should receive, the state places your son or daughter into foster care where you may not even be granted visitation rights. And that's horrible. I mean, they do so many things that really hurt the parents. For instance, here is some things the actions can lead to your child being held against you will include disagreements with doctors over the diagnostic or proposed treatment plan, the recommendation of a risky surgery, prescribed a drug with dangerous unknown side effects. Now, the recommendation of a risky surgery, prescribing a drug with dangerous unknown side effects, failures to address your questions or concerns, and totally disagreeing with your suggestions. Those are disagreements over doctors, and they can be really, really hard on you. Example, a 13-year-old girl fighting liver cancer was removed from her mother's care when that mother sought alternative treatments because her daughter wasn't tolerating chemotherapy. And they took her daughter away. Another one is the police tracked down parents of a toddler after putting out a missing and endangered child bulletin. He's removed from their custody, then transported for medical treatment without the consent of the parents. So medical trafficking is true and it's scary. So you got to be aware of it. That's enough. I've talked about topics today, and I know it's been a long day or long morning here. I hope to see you all this evening. I hope we have a guest speaker that can talk. I want to thank you all for listening. God bless you all, and make sure you still fight for your child. Do not give up hope. This is Bob Pace signing off, and I'll see you this evening at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.